To my presentation about the process of my final project based on Far From the Madding Crowd and Cannon Hall. This project we had to design a dress which was based off of different films, as well as linking it to Cannon Hall as it will be featured in their upcoming exhibition Costumes to Classics, which will feature costumes from different film adaptations of books. In the film Far From the Madding Crowd, which was originally a book written by Thomas Hardy, it follows themes such as feminism, class, independence and nature. It is set in the 1870s. At the start of the unit, we experimented with different decorative techniques to help us elevate our final garments more. For example, we experimented with bleach, brush show, pin tucks, two-way pleats, and more. Designs to Cannon Hall, I made a print which I would use across my garments. I was inspired by different objects and pieces of furniture around Cannon Hall, as well as one of Evelyn de Morgan's paintings, which you can see at Cannon Hall. Evelyn is related to the family who first owned Cannon Hall. That is why I chose to look into her work. My initial designs. I designed 20 designs in total, which are all based off of the film and inspired by the fashion from the 1870s. Before I started designing, I did some research into that era so I could find out how to make my designs the most accurate. Before I finished my final 20 designs, I went on to do some media experimentation. I used multiple different medias such as coloured pencils, pro markers and watercolours. I really enjoy doing media experimentation because it allows me to experiment with more techniques and different medias than I usually would before I go on to finalise my illustrations. These are my final 10 designs which I chose to be on my design boards. For media, I used watercolours and then added coloured pencil on top to create more detail. I decided to change up the poses of my illustrations because I felt as though they were a bit boring and that I could make them more creative. I also added vines and flowers to the hair and necks to link it more to my print. For my design boards, I wanted to try and link them to my final garment. So, in the background, I added a red gridded pattern and I also drew some flowers with watercolour to add more interest to the boards. For the board with my final garment on, I also added a photo from the photo shoot that I did and my specification drawings to make it stand out more. This is my final garment which I made based off of Far From the Madding Crowd and Cannon Hall. I decided to name it Everdeen because that is the last name of the main character in the film. Also, when I was planning to do my photo shoot, I decided to do it outside to fit with the nature theme of the film. Thank you for listening to my presentation about my work. Here are the links to my blog and my commercials on YouTube.